Welcome back. With me now, Dr. Emil Savundra. Most of you will have heard the name in connection with a great many differing incidents, whether it was 1950, the oil for China deal, Dr. Savundra Central, $1,200,000 tended to disappear. 1954, the rice for Goa deal, Dr. Savundra Central, $865,000 tended to disappear. 1958, Camp Bird scandal in Ghana, Dr. Savundra deported. 1959, the Costa Rican coffee beans, and then coming up to date, the fire, auto, and marine. Now, can we take a look at a diagram for a moment, just to look at fire, auto, and marine, to see what was going on at that time? Basically, this is how the situation would be described by economists, financiers, the reporters who've covered the story. That we started out with a situation where the public had a lot of money. They were attracted by fire, auto, marine insurance, who offered what other insurance companies said were ridiculously low premiums, what they just said were low premiums. Result, attractive to the public, money into fire, auto, marine insurance. Probably about £5 million, probably at a rate of £3.5 million a year by the end of the career of that company. That company controlled by Dr. Savundra with Mr. Quincy Walker, Dr. Savundra's company. The situation, however, the money was in the company, but inevitably claims started to come in. And in the last resort, the company was going to depend on its reserves, which had been invested, £900,000 approximately, which they said had been invested in assorted, well-known shares. But in fact, that £900,000 worth of money was not in those shares at all. It had gone to Merchants Finance Trust, a bank in Liechtenstein, controlled, according to the lawyer who acted for Dr. Savundra, Mr. Hagenbach, by Dr. Savundra with Mr. Walker. The result, Fire Auto eventually went broke. Meanwhile, what had Merchants Finance Trust been doing with the money? You would have thought they would have been investing it for Fire Auto to protect the people who'd put money into Fire Auto. In fact, they hadn't. What they had done was the opposite of what happens usually to insurance companies. Normally an insurance company will have money it can call on straight away. In this case, it didn't. It had loaned about at least £600,000 worth of its money to Dr. Savundra and Mr. Walker. £380,000 plus to Dr. Savundra, £200,000 plus to Mr. Walker. This was on a fixed loan of 20 years. They couldn't have it back for 20 years, so Fire Auto couldn't have it back for 20 years. Result, and the loan, incidentally, the interest on it was very small indeed. The result, the money couldn't be got back to Fire Auto, couldn't be got back to the people who had just claims. Fire Auto went bust. Dr. Savundra had £380,000. Mr. Walker had £200,000 plus. Merchants Finance Trust was controlled by him. Fire Auto went bust, and a great many people have not had claims paid. Is that true?
Well, let's start at the beginning, Mr. Frost. 1950, you touched on the Chinese oil deal. 1954, you touched on a mysterious deal involving Goa. I'm going to, the book is ready. I've got to get a commercial in for my book. It's going to be published very soon, and I'm sincerely hoping that your 11 million readers are going to buy it. I was a secret agent for certain governments. Your Penkovsky papers are going to be milk and water when it comes out.
You said you were a secret agent for the Pope, I believe it was.
I've never said that. I've never said that. I've never said that. Other people have said it.
The Pope told me, yeah.
Well, the last time I met His Holiness, he hadn't met you.
If we go much further, we'll be in trouble here.
I think we better call it quits on that one.
Let us in fact move. I mentioned those things in passing, and you've mentioned the Pope in passing. Come up to this thing that we spent most of the time on explaining there.
Yes.
I mean, the first thing is, let us get the first thing clear, you don't deny that you have received loans from MFT, Merchants Finance Trust?
Let's be absolutely specific. On the date of the loans, the loan agreements, which the Sunday Times, I think, is the name of the rag, which is now changing its name to the Sunday Swines, that's right, that were published.
You'll have to do better than that in the book.
Oh no, the book is going to be a lot better. This is one that I just had to think of something to remind me of them. But anyway, they mentioned they published a photostat. They published a photograph of the loans. On the day mentioned in those agreements, most emphatically and most certainly, I had borrowed the amount stated there, 300,000 pounds, from Merchants and Finance Trust. There was absolutely no doubt about that.
And it was on a 20-year loan?
And it was on a 20-year loan.
And you still have it?
Ah, that is the point.
Pay you when you catch me.
No, that question wasn't even intelligent. I'm not going to cross swords with the peasants. I came here to cross swords with England's greatest swordsman.
I'm afraid nobody is a peasant. I'm afraid they're the people who gave you your money.
Ah, this is fine. This is fine, because they have given me nothing at all.
You've given them nothing at all. They gave you money.
No, they gave me no money. I make that absolute categorical statement, and it's a statement that they can always prove, and which no doubt is provided.
Would you like your insurance policy back, and you let me have what I gave you?
He said, would you like your insurance policy back, and you give back the money she gave you?
If you have a legal claim against me, madam, the High Court of England will enforce it.
Okay, just come back to the basic point. You've admitted plus £3,000 plus from MFT, which you controlled.
No. That's where you put the words into my mouth. I have not admitted controlling MFT by any stretch of imagination.
The man who you employed for years has said so.
No.
In sworn documents which are here.
I'd like to see the sworn document in which he says that I controlled MFT.
In all through this document, he says that as far as he was concerned, everything that happened was drafted by Savundra and Walker. Throughout the whole thing.
As far as he was concerned, everything that was drafted by Savundra and Walker. And what, may I ask you, does the word draft mean? Does that mean control?
In this case, he clearly thinks it does.
I didn't.
He also adds, I have reason to believe that some of the transactions of this company have been dishonest.
His reasons to believe are totally immaterial.
You employed this man for years. Either he is now telling the truth and he was a shrewd person to have, or you've been stupidly fooled by this man over the years.
Neither.
Either dishonest or stupid.
Neither. He's a Swiss lawyer.
What does that mean?
That means that he is playing it straight according to the Swiss lawyer's book.
He's not a peasant.
Right.
A wise Swiss peasant, let's put it that way. A wise Swiss peasant.
1 second. Dr. Savundra, come back to this point.
Yes.
Do you still have this money that you got from MFT?
No.
Where is it?
On a certain date, for a start, I believe it was the 21st of June, this loan was taken over completely by Mr. Walker.
He took over the responsibility to repay it.
He
Did you
took
give him
over-
the 300,000
He took over, for a start, I had not received £300,000. The loan figure was £300,000. Now let's get this absolutely clear. I asked for a blackboard so that I could show this to the audience and to the 11 million odd viewers that you've got. And the peasants, of course. But in the absence of the blackboard, it's almost impossible to show you precisely what has been shown to the government.
Look up his sleeve!
What has been shown, let me repeat to the competent authority, the Board of Trade, and it's absolutely definite that this 300,000 pounds, the figure, never reached me.
How much of it did reach
here and
you?
now that the Board of Trade would support that statement?
Oh, yes.
They would.
Oh, they'd have to. The facts are absolutely stubborn.
How much of it did reach you? Mr. Savundra, yes.
Beg your pardon?
How much
Lady
of
in
it
the front.
did reach you?
It was in your, under your name, you and Mr. Walker, and that company lent it to you, and you say you didn't get it, then you must still have it in that company.
No, no,
So
no.
where is it?
It's not as simple as that.
Let us move on to one more specific point. We've all observed the nature and the outline of the smokescreen there. The question of the forged
Smoke
shares.
screen is the wrong word.
The forged
No,
shares.
no, the smoke screen is the wrong
What
word.
would you choose a word?
I would like to
Sunday
say...
swines, I suppose.
No, the Sunday swine, of course, is a minor one. We could think of a few much better. For instance, shin side team, aiming so low, etc., so on and so forth. No, no.
That's about the same standard as the one before. Now, the forged shares. In April 1966, and I'm reading this, and this has been approved by the Board of Trade.
April 1966.
Under pressure from their auditors, FAM, your company, produced for inspection the certificates of shares they said they were held as part of their assets.
Right?
The auditors took careful note of the dates and serial numbers of these certificates.
Right. Will you repeat the first sentence, which is most important?
April 1966.
Inaccurate. Carry on from there.
The auditors saw these on April 22. That is not inaccurate, that is true.
Now, let's be absolutely clear about this one, and I'm prepared to challenge this anywhere. The auditors saw certain certificates before the 21st of June. Well, we didn't get the exact dates. I've got to be exact. Yes, before the 21st of June. The date on which I severed my connection with the company. The certificates that they saw then were 100% authentic.
No.
Yes.
In April 1966, when you were in charge of this
Sorry,
company...
that statement is inaccurate.
I'm afraid it's not. It's true.
No, can't be. I'm prepared to have the auditor up here, and if he says so on oath, I'm prepared to have him up for perjury.
I'm afraid you're wrong, because the fact...
No, the fact is absolutely clear. This has been one of the grossest misrepresentations by the Sunday newspapers that made such a hoo-ha about this.
Why haven't you sued those on that specific point?
I've been away, as you know. The writs are
back
already...
with the heart attack again.
No. Back with the heart attack is not the...
General.
Let's not bring that... I've been away, I said. I've only just got back. The writs are ready. We were waiting to finish your show.
To serve us with one too.
Oh, well, why not? Why not?
Yes, it'll all be fun. That's what worries me about you. It's all fun to you, isn't it?
But of course it's all fun.
Come down here.
Certainly.
Come and sit on a stool over here, will you, Dr. Savundra?
Slowly, slowly. Catchy monkey. Now.
Do sit down.
I hope the stool's not fixed.
No.
Right?
Unfortunately, we forgot to think of it. Let us start with a lady over here who insured with you. Mrs. Mills. Could you tell me what happened when you insured with...
Well, I didn't actually. My husband did, and I lost my husband in a car crash.
Sorry, could you say
In
that?
a car accident, and my solicitor was fighting it, and they refused to sort of contact him and made all sorts of excuses that, that they found some medical evidence that, he before he signed the policy, he should have looked at it properly, and which was proved in court. It was all a load of trash, and the whole thing. And they kept going on like this, messing us about, and they offered me 500 and stuck at that. And shortly before they came, they went sort of liquidation. Then we realised what had happened. They kept messing about, and they wouldn't pay out the money. They just kept sort of offering me 500, and that was it.
So the situation was that you'd lost your husband
Yes,
in a
lost
car
my
crash.
husband, yes.
So you were left
With three children,
three
yes.
children.
And they just sort of kept messing about, sort of no particular purpose, they
Next.
just...
Thank you very much indeed.
Well, mine seems quite trivial compared to this woman. And £240 might not seem a lot to you, Mr. Savundra, but it took me a long time to save it up. And I've got to now pay solicitors' costs, plus court fees, to fight this case to get it back. I mean, if this might be...
Would you like me to comment on both of them?
This might be fun to you, but it's certainly no fun to me.
Would you like me to comment on both of them?
Yes.
This mic works, does it?
Oh, very well.
Oh, good. Well, it's heartrending to hear the first story. And the only thing I can say is, I'd like to ask one question, if I may. When did the tragedy occur?
About 2 years ago, this coming March.
In other words, for 2 years, in the case of a death, the company had not paid.
Yeah.
Madam, it breaks my heart to say this openly, but knowing the policy for 2 years, the policy I say, it seems impossible. I'd go to the extent of saying it is completely impossible that your solicitor would have allowed a legal case of that strength to have hung around for 2 years, and the only possibility is that there was a material non-disclosure, and that the company offered you £500 ex gratia.
He proved that. At the inquest, it was proved.
You don't know about it, do you? I thought the poor gentleman was dead.
Yes, don't this
Make
is not
debating points like that. Let's move on.
This is just not funny anymore. You try to make things like that, like this, into a great laugh.
I'm
Things
not
like this
making
affect
anything into a
human
laugh.
beings, the plebs, you know.
Yes.
The peasants, yes.
Yes.
How can you say, Dr. Savundra, on your policy, benefit through care,
Yes.
when it appears that, in fact, you benefit, and in fact, you don't care?
Well,
That's what it turns out to be.
I didn't benefit.
Oh, not so.
You're broke. Well, where is all that money?
Now that is
You've evaded that point since I asked it
The
before,
day
Mr.
that-
Savundra. Where is that money?
the day that you are the official inquirer, and I believe that the government has appointed an official inquirer, and I am meeting him very soon by appointment.
If you don't have a heart attack.
Oh, well, that is God's will.
That's what it always. That's what. Let's move on to another case, because that's what it always seems to come back to me. It seems to come back the officials and the top people.
But of
that's
course.
fine. But when it's actual people involved,
Yes.
you don't seem to. Mrs.
But we
Chatterjee,
can't deal with the people in a democracy.
just a moment.
We must deal only with officials.
Mrs. Chatterjee,
We're the officials.
Well, my husband was killed in
If
January.
you are the creditors,
quiet a moment, please. Just a second.
My husband was killed in a car crash. He was a passenger in January 65. And I was supposed to get £7,000. The claim was settled in April 65. And the cheque was held up for other excuses until June 65, when of course it bounced, which was a lot of use to me. Losing my husband, I was very badly smashed up myself. I only just lived. I'm very fortunate to be alive, yes. But what have you got to say? No compensation, nothing.
the only thing I can say is this. All these and the other heartrending stories which I've heard recently have made me realize only too well that my selling out was the wisest thing I ever did.
For you. For you.
For me.
Yes, for you.
How? How do you mean that?
By selling out, I have no legal responsibility and no moral responsibility.
No moral.
You have total moral responsibility
I beg
for
your
all
pardon.
these people.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Frost. I have not.
How can you say you're a Roman Catholic and it's
Yes.
the will of God? How can you be responsible and head of a company when all these things happen and you think by some fake deal with Quincy Walker, £4,000
You have
on
already
June 21st?
assumed. You have already assumed.
How do
a
you get
fake deal.
rid of moral responsibility?
You can't.
How you have already assumed one thing, the fake deal.
Well, forget the fake deal.
Right.
How do you sign a bit of paper
Yes.
that gets rid of past moral responsibility? Tell me that.
By
Because we'd all love to know.
I'll tell you. You start by realizing that in your democracy, you started such things as limited liability companies, that you created such things as company law, that you created such things as company registration, that you created such things as boards of trade, that you created such things as officials, that you created such things as official receivers, that you created such things as official inspectors of the Board of Trade, and that's how you nail yourself to the cross.
And what did you create?
I managed... Thank you. Thank you. I'm delighted you asked that question. I created the greatest thing.
Money can't.
No.
What about the 100,000?
Just a minute. Let's not play the side part style.
Created the greatest thing what?
That the insurance
what you're
industry of
doing.
Britain had ever known.
Why did it go bust then?
Do you really want to know?
Yes.
Right. You shall be told. If you are prepared to listen. Not if you are prepared to cross-examine, because this is a very poor cross-examination.
I don't think I'm prepared to have another one of your smoke screens because we all observe the nature
this
of that.
is not a smoke
I just want to
screen.
come back to that basic point again
Yes.
because this is what horrifies me
Yes.
about you. How can you hand over a company about June the 20th, 1966 to someone else, sign a piece of paper
Yes.
and say that absolves you of legal responsibility?
Right.
Perhaps the Board of Trade aren't yet quick enough or clever enough to catch you on that. I hope they do. But how can you say that absolves you of moral responsibility?
By the simple reason that you have forgotten that the man who took over was the managing director of the company from the day it was formed.
So,
And that he had run the company all the time.
you haven't.
Why did you bow?
Surely you know this.
Why did you bow?
Why did you bow?
Why did you
Right,
bow out, Mr.
he'd run
Savundra?
the company. He's therefore responsible.
I can only answer to one
He'd
person.
run the company. He's therefore responsible for this collapse,
He is responsible for the management of the company.
and therefore for the collapse. Of the
I am not
company.
prepared to nail anybody
Well,
else on the cross.
You're now saying that you have this man who's responsible.
Anybody
You
else
knew
on
him
the
for
cross,
10
Your Honour?
years. How on earth could you let him run this company? You have either to be stupid or dishonest.
Neither.
In
Which?
God we
Neither.
trust, all the strictly can.
Neither. You have surely delegated responsibility in your time. You have surely delegated authority in your time. And if you've learned the basic principles of management, Mr. Frost, you'll know that when you delegate totally and fully.
But when you delegate, it assumes you're in authority. And if you're in authority, you take the responsibility.
No.
Delegation is from above. When
Please.
a cabinet minister delegates to a civil servant, he carries the can.
Please.
When you delegate to somebody,
Please,
Praise be,
please.
you don't.
I will suggest that you get practice of management or a few elementary books on the subject and study them first.
let me just, so one last question. You can look at these people
Yes.
here, widows, widowers, whoever they are,
Yes.
and you can feel, I have no legal responsibility.
Right.
And I've signed a piece of paper, and I have no moral responsibility
Right.
either. Thank you. And it's not really the way to end the series, but it's the end of the series.
Frosty.
Bye-bye.